Women are being attacked in a small town. There's a rumor of a mutated monster lurking about.
The X-Files test its boundaries in this fan-favorite episode.
Not happening.
And there's dancing.
Yeah, a lot of dancing.
This is not happening.
Hello and welcome to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast.
I was in bed and could swear I heard Cher singing. The one who was married to Sonny. Then the room got all smoky and I saw some kind of monster. He had a really gross face with lumps all over his head. I was too scared to scream. Then I got all groggy and conked out for 3 days. Guess what happened when I woke up? I got your name off the TV. Some lady on the Jerry Springer show who had a werewolf baby said you came to her house. Well, I got her story beat by a mile, so maybe you'll want to come see me too. Sincerely, Shayna Berkowitz.
Scully, do you think it's too soon to get my own 1-900 number?
Hello and welcome to the show today, everyone. My name is Mike, and with me is Andrew and Kerry. How are you guys doing today?
Looking forward to a Frankenstein show, Mike.
I'm here.
She's there. Today we are doing Post-Modern Prometheus, a very, very different X-Files episode, but beloved nonetheless. What are your guys' first impressions of this one? It is very different and very controversial for certain things. How do you feel initially?
I thought it was shot beautifully. That was the first thing that came to my mind was the I like the black and white aesthetic. It's something different than your standard run-of-the-mill Monster of the Week episode, and it was a nice change up.
Definitely. It is, as you say, it looks wonderful. I gather this is a tribute to, is it James Whale? I'm not sure if I got that. Yeah. He did Frankenstein in the 30s. So using a lot of the same camera angles, and obviously the black and white is an homage to the fact it was a black and white movie.
Yes.
I liked this episode once I figured out that this is the comic book being turned into the television show. Like, once you get that conceit, that everything makes sense. Because if you don't get that and you look at this sort of through a straight lens of this is Mulder and Scully doing the X-Files thing, it does not hang together well. I just sat there what-ifing the episode and going, I don't understand this, and I don't
believe this.
I don't believe it. I don't like it, and why this, and it looks so campy. But once you look at it like kind of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical episode, like they decided they want to do something completely out of the box, then it worked a lot better for me.
Yeah, it took me a minute to figure that out, too.
Well, and it sets itself apart from just about every other X-Files episode. I don't think you can just throw away any other episode as if it didn't happen. Like, aside from wanting to, like, space.
Well, yeah.
But this one, objectively has not happened. It's just a story, and that was in and of itself a very, very different approach to the X-Files.
And
it's very I was just gonna say it's very tongue in cheek, like the way that some of the characters were made to either mimic the animals or vice versa, or like the news reporter who drove me nuts the entire episode.
Yeah,
I believe she was a chicken
lady. Yeah,
it's Chris Carter. I mean, a very different version of Chris Carter, but Chris Carter nonetheless.
Well, let's dive into this one, guys. Kerry, you want to take us away?
Sure. So we open with, it's the comic book cover that's the only thing that's in color, I believe, in the entire episode.
Yeah, you're right.
It's Great Mutato opens to black and white. There's these two kids, Izzy and somebody help me with the name. Was it his name Booger?
Indeed,
Booger,
his name is Booger. Very classy.
Very unfortunate. Trying to fix this car that probably should have died 10, 15 years ago.
Is this?
I have no idea.
I think they completely fabricated this car.
I think so too, and it does not look like it's going to carry their weight. It's that golf cart kind of car.
I didn't want to say it.
I hope the convention is in town.
Yeah.
So trying to fix this car and arguing over it, and this voice comes, and it's Shayna Berkowitz, her house. Izzy is her son. somehow they finally get this damn thing working and get in the car. Doesn't sound great going away.
Doesn't look great either.
No, it does not.
doesn't.
Cloud of smoke following it.
Basically, it was just a mother and son arguing back and forth. I'm 18, you can't tell me what to do. See where you're going to live when you come home. I think I actually had that argument once.
Oh, I'm sure we all have. It should be worth noting that Shayna Berkowitz was initially written for Roseanne Barr. Unfortunately, she was not able to do the show due to scheduling conflicts. You can kind of see the parallels there.
You can totally see it. I'm sure when they were describing what they had in mind, I guess Chris Carter, I mean, this is his episode start to finish. But I'll bet you that was the model. He's like, if you're looking for method, just think Roseanne Barr.
Well, Roseanne had just ended or was still going at this point?
In 97?
97?
Yes, aired November 30th, 1997.
Okay, yeah. So it was pretty close to being
It was
over
either,
at that point.
yeah, I would say so.
So she was still in the zeitgeist, so that was
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
a very appropriate send-up.
it's an interesting actress choice. I just have my opinions on Roseanne, I guess.
Yes, you're not alone.
Yes, you were not alone.
So the two of them drive off in this car that hopefully will get them there. We cut to Shayna inside her house watching what becomes a theme throughout the episode, Jerry Springer. And why not? I believe it's a wolf baby?
Yep.
Or some version of a wolf baby. I can't remember. Is it she sees something or hears something first?
I think
Well,
she hears something, but
Yeah. Yeah, we as the audience kind of get that behind-the-shoulder view of what's happening in her house.
Okay. So there's, like Mike said, we as the audience get to see this tent or circus tent being rolled outside of her windows, covering her entire house, which for me was a little flight from reality. I'm just one of those people. I couldn't figure out who or how that could actually be accomplished.
yeah, I was wondering
No.
about it too. I'd like to concede, though, that we only see something is covering over the windows. It's only later on that we realize that the whole house is covered. And I gather that is actually done when you like have to fumigate a house for termites. So yeah, it's a real life thing.
That is a thing.
Thank you.
But yeah, how they could accomplish that without her hearing or noticing.
Well, clearly she's into that show. I mean, that is...
And who wouldn't be? I mean, come on. It's the wolf baby on Jerry Springer.
But also
In
remember,
1997, no less.
remember, this is the comic book. This is...
It is.
I ceased my what ifing immediately once I figured that out.
You never what if, Andrew.
I never do, but in this
No.
case, yeah.
So, Shayna, we see the skillet on the stove, something being dropped into it, and it's producing some sort of a gas because she's clutching at her chest. She's gasping, asking who's there. A figure with appears to have two heads appears around the door, and I believe that's when we start hearing Cher
Yes.
at some point. Another constant through the episode.
Yes, someone else who was this was written for her as well, but she could not perform in the episode.
Gather Chris Carter is a huge Cher fan.
Cher actually, from what I understand, declined the role, saw the episode, and then kind of kicked herself in the ass for not taking it. She said she thought it was great. It was sweet, and she would have loved to have done it.
Really? I thought it was scheduling, but maybe not.
I think there's probably a sense of, do I do TV? Like, she's
Yeah, probably.
a major star, right? So it's got to be a case of, do I debase myself to get into a TV show? Because that trend really didn't, TV didn't get to be equally as big as movies until, many years later.
Yeah, nowish.
Now it's everything.
Now stars are clamoring to be on TV shows.
Yes.
So after the Great Mutado kind of pokes his head in, we get a shot of the exterior of the house, and it shows it's completely covered by the circus tent. And then we get our opening credits.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy looking. I mean, I bet you real termite tents probably aren't so elaborate, but I mean, full marks for the production design.
It's like bolted to every corner of this house, and I'm like, I don't know if that's how it goes, but a little too involved.
In his comic book,
Well, exactly, right? This is where it all
he
does
wanted
goes
it
back
like
to.
that.
There
It
probably
does
would've been-
look cool
probably
and
would've been
theatrical.
a dozen different ways to render someone unconscious that would be a little bit less elaborate, but for the setup, it's
Yes.
it's fitting. You know, it fits with the rest of the episode.
After the credits, we have driving down. It's a beautiful shot of the car driving down the highway. Whoever the DP was for this, I had it written down at some point, but I don't remember who it was, did a phenomenal job. So Scully's reading a letter that was written to Mulder by Shayna Berkowitz, kind of detailing an experience that she had where she has had a tubal ligation, but somehow has woken up, as she puts it, in a condition. And she saw him on TV and really wanted to talk to him. Mulder quips, "Do you think it's too soon to get my own 1-900 number?"
Yeah, you got to imagine that he's getting these kind of calls all the time, right?
Yeah, I saw this guy. He seemed to know a lot about UFOs.
He's kind of cute. I'll give him a call.
I gather, just on the point of the wide sweeping sunsets, they do this a couple times with those crazy clouds. That's all done in CG, like they added that after, but still looks great and it really sets up the episode.
Very nice shot.
So Mulder and Scully are sitting in Shayna's kitchen, kind of talking about what happened to her. Something that struck me as odd. Did she indicate that Izzy was a product of the same thing?
I was wondering about that too, and
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Because they allude to that towards the end of the episode when they intercut him with the pig. Well, not to get too far ahead, but he is definitely a product of something.
Right, and other characters too, maybe. You know, this could be quite elaborate across the whole town. Yeah, like he was the first experiment that definitely didn't work.
Yeah. Scully questions, and now you're pregnant again. Apparently, Shayna had a tubal ligation 2 years ago. And that's when they noticed the skillet on the stove. She alludes to the giant jar of peanut butter, and I don't know who has a jar of peanut butter that damn big.
The jars of peanut butter in this episode are gigantic.
Yeah.
Which is almost comical. I think, obviously, no pun intended, but yeah, I think comical is the best word for it.
It definitely.
Shayna kind of takes it upon herself to show them all of the clues that something is not right in her house. That's a little funny.
I like the coaster. Or somebody didn't use the coaster. It's like,
this is your evidence.
And the son values his life, so
yes.
It wasn't him.
Yeah, clearly in no way could it have been him, even though he is the weak link in this episode, right? He is called out for so much.
Little bit. Scully, through looking around, finds Izzy's comic book, The Great Mutado. While she's looking for the comic book, Shayna and Mulder are having a conversation about how on Jerry Springer, they said he was an expert.
Mm-hmm.
To which Mulder alludes to saying that he doubts that this has anything to do with alien abductions, and he doesn't even know if he believes in that anymore.
Yeah, interesting, eh? That little callback to the mythology arc, even though we're nowhere near mythology in this episode.
So it was... I thought that was interesting, considering the place in the X-Files universe that it does or does not take place in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Shane is quite taken aback by that. Doesn't believe him.
I just to talk about the setup here, I do like the twist that she's been magically made pregnant again. Shayna is magically pregnant, even though she's had the tubal ligation, and it obviously makes super sense later how this is achieved. But in the moment, because it's such a fantastical opening, you get the sense that maybe magic is at play here, but to what end is the real question.
Yes. That was a very good question, because then logically or scientifically you're trying to figure out, if it's not magic, then how the hell did it actually happen?
Mm-hmm. Because the setup is that it's some kind of an assault, that the person's been rendered unconscious and that, nasty things have happened. But what I take issue with a bit of is that if this is the conclusion that we're being led to, I don't like how they play Shayna in this case, because she's very, like, I don't know what the right adjective is to explain it, but you know, she's more interested in
show any shock or like something very bad has happened to her.
I would say that time has passed before Mulder and Scully have arrived, so they may have, for the sake of the plot, decided to advance it to a point where, you know, now it's at a different phase of the reaction. But, you know, it's not being treated with well, again, this talks about how the writing was in the 90s versus how it is now. Like, I think a different writer would have approached this differently. But then again, it all comes back to the idea that this is a comic book, and if you just interpret it like this is how it's been written, then it is not forgivable, but it's understandable. You know, it's like, this is the way the comic book writer has decided to make the plot go.
And we all know the comic book writer is a simpleton.
Yeah.
That's a very nice way of putting it, Mike. I think Andrew brings up a good point. Yeah, we're definitely more sensitive to if that indeed was what happened to her. And even if a couple months had passed, she's still pretty upbeat about it.
It is striking in the sense that she's not too concerned, other than it's weird. It's weird to her that this happened. It's not horrible. It's weird. I think
it's less traumatizing and more what the hell, like. Yeah. So, but like you said, Andrew, that's the 90s, and
yeah, and the conceit that they've given it, right? It's the only way that it can kind of be forgiven is if you keep abreast of the fact that this is the comic book, but. Like, only on repeated viewing and at the end of it do I sort of see that. Like, in the moment, even at this point of the episode, I'm still sort of crossing my arms and looking askance at it going, really? So, you know, it took me a while to get out of that. So, yeah, I was really on the fence on this episode for a long time until it became quite obviously played for comic relief. And that, you know, that sort of pushed me over the edge of, all right, we're not meant to take this seriously. You know, they've made these characters so over the top. They've made them so
very much so
caricatures of characters that this is designed to be a send up and not to be taken seriously.
Yeah, I agree. Scully then comes into the room and has found Izzy's comic book and says to her that of the description she gave of the intruder, you said that he had a gross face and lumps on his head. And she has to interject with, and two mouths. I don't know if I mentioned that. And so Scully is basically saying, well, isn't this kind of what this is, while holding up the comic book? She says, like, she's not surprised at all by any of it. Oh, that's the Great Mutado.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, don't you know? Like,
who hasn't heard of it?
This is not new information.
And that's when she shares that's the comic book character that her son created. And with that, Izzy magically appears and the door bangs behind him. And I think one of my favorite exchanges from him, and one of the more bizarre lines, is Shayna telling him that these are agents Mulder and Scully from the FBI, and he says the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
He's confused.
Like you said, a simpleton.
Yeah.
But he got it right, so good on him.
Yes.
So Scully's wondering how this suspect is the same as what is in his comic book, and he very matter-of-factly says, because I've seen it. That surprises, I think, both Mulder and Scully, and Izzy shares that it's not like a state secret around here. Like, people just know what it is, and I don't know that they were exactly privy to that information, obviously coming into it, that this thing had been seen already.
At this point, my what if superpower was like going on overdrive here. It's like, really? Like, we needed FBI agents to come into town to piece this together? It's like, she gives it a description which is eerily accurate to his comic book character. Like, I think you know where to begin your manhunt, but
right.
Okay. Again, comic book. This is the way the plot is designed, so you just got to roll with it.
Do we ever see any local law enforcement in this?
I don't think we do.
No, we see mob justice.
We do see mob justice.
Tiki torch justice.
Tiki torch. No, I don't. That's a good point. I don't think I ever thought of that.
I think that just occurred to me that there's no there's not even a sheriff.
She does say, because I think Mulder asked her, maybe Scully asked, did you report this to police? And she said, yeah, they don't believe me.
Oh, that is right. She does say that.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I guess I wonder why, but...
If I had given the description of a man with two mouths and then I woke up 3 days later and he was singing Cher, no, I would ask what kind of trip you'd been on and stop with the acid.
Yeah.
But that would just be me. But kind of like we were talking about, it's Scully that says, has it crossed neither of your minds that what you thought you saw fits perfectly with what is drawn here?
And it doesn't.
It's
kind of the point.
Kind of like the long pause I just took inadvertently. That's kind of what Shayna does.
Yeah.
And she kind of agrees and said, well, yeah, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Which is a fair enough point.
Yep.
However,
it's not looking good for Shayna right now.
Far be it for me to question Shayna's experience, but you're right, it's not looking real good.
And that leads Scully to draw her first conclusion is that she's doing it for publicity.
Mm-hmm.
So she's checked out already.
Not even
which
for the
you
first
can't really
act.
blame her.
No, you can't. I would be getting in the car, perhaps, and just saying, all right, this is your party from here on out.
But I'm curious why she isn't still interested in the case from the point of view of the scientific angle. Like, she's literally pregnant and has had the tubal ligation. So we're talking some Virgin Mary stuff here, or it's as she's described it. So, from the very least,
Fair.
As we learned later, this is obviously some form of, artificial insemination or whatever. So, that doesn't happen in a casual setting. So
It does not.
I think that you could easily put the pieces together that this had been done. But anyway, they're focused on the supernatural angle, and that's, again, where the story is going to go. So you can't what if it too much.
Andrew, you can always...
I can always what if it, but I am specifically reining back because I know the story is doing this to us.
We appear... And they're in a clearing near a forest. It's nighttime. Izzy has a peanut butter sandwich and places it on a stump, trying to lure the great Mutato out with a peanut butter sandwich, which leads me to believe he has an incredible sense of smell.
Yeah.
I think this is a callback to E.T. with the Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, the
Reese's Pieces. Yeah. Wasn't
Even
that
still.
like a Hansel and Gretel type thing? Like she put him in a line so he could follow them? Or was it just a bunch in front? It's been a long time.
Yeah, I can't even remember.
But nonetheless...
I don't think it happened in Frankenstein, is the long
It did not, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they begin to walk away from the stump and back towards where the cars are, and Mulder and Scully kind of, I believe, hang back a bit and are lowering their voices while trying to parse out what the hell is really going on.
Why are you humoring them, Mulder?
I'm not humoring them, Scully. This is a very serious crime.
So is perjury. So is calling out FBI agents under false pretenses.
For the purpose of what?
Isn't it obvious? I think what we're seeing here is an example of a culture for whom daytime talk shows and tabloid headlines have become a reality against which they measure their lives. A culture so obsessed by the media and a chance for self-dramatization that they'll do anything in order to gain a spotlight.
I am alarmed that you would reduce these people to a cultural stereotype. Not everybody's dream is to get on Jerry Springer.
And Scully wants to know, and I guess rightfully so, why at this point he's humoring her.
Mm-hmm.
And Mulder says he's not. He says it's a very serious crime. And I didn't really like Scully's response necessarily to this because I believe it's so is perjury.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the right term, but I mean, maybe obstructing an
obstruction. Yeah.
Yeah, but like they're not in court here; they're not under oath. But
Yeah.
But again, it's Izzy. It's Izzy writing this. He's in charge of the dialogue.
It is. I think what she means is that from what she's seen, this is nonsense. And that's not accurate. But the idea that Shayna, who is looking to be, in her mind, on TV or something, be sensational, is calling...
Jerry Springer.
Yeah, it's calling law enforcement out on a bogus tip or a bogus case. And that's where Scully's mind is at.
Yep.
However inaccurate it is.
Yes. So Izzy is staying close, hiding a tape recorder, and I think basically the next 2 to 3 minutes is a huge exposition dump.
Oh, for sure. But it's classic Mulder and Scully, right? He
it
takes
is.
one side, she takes the other.
And alarmed that you're reducing people to stereotypes, and I'm not, and not everybody wants to be on Jerry Springer. However, that does not seem true in this case. Everybody does seem to want to be on Jerry Springer in this town. Big fans.
I do like the nonchalant eavesdropping he's doing. He's kind of leaning up against the car, kind of comes into frame.
I think it's pretty obvious the town does want the celebrity, because I couldn't figure out when Mulder first goes into the diner and everybody is kind of acting weird and smiling at him, and it's because they're brushing up with celebrity, I think, is the upshot of that. And then when he comes back later and they all scowl at him and throw food at him and spit in his food, it's because they've made them out to be crackpots in the media. So I do like that nod to the idea that they are so movable by public opinion.
It is an interesting commentary on the public. That
the mob, shall we just call them? Shall we just call them out now as the mob?
But I'm talking. This is somewhat of a poignant observation of today's society. But that's just my opinion, and we can get into that later.
We will, assign some time for you at the end of the episode.
It's not a huge thing, but yeah.
They're still going back and forth, and then they hear like a moaning type sound, which Izzy gets very excited and says it's the Great Mutato. And they look over on the stump and they see a figure picking up the sandwich. And then as he sees people approaching him, drops the sandwich and runs. Scully kind of hangs back for a second, and I didn't catch this on the first viewing, probably the second, that it had 2 bites taken out on 2 different sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm impressed you didn't see that immediately, given just how much they pasted that image onto the framing of it. Like,
you're impressed that I didn't get it immediately?
Well,
Is that a nice... Why don't you just say, "Hey, you dumbass"? It's framed perfectly.
No. Well, I guess
you're Canadian. I'm sorry. You.
I can't. I'm programmed not to say it like that.
Too nice.
I guess what I'm getting at is they go to special effort to frame it like that. But I think because the scene is so frenetic, like we're in the middle of a chase, your mind is like, no, get me to the chase. I want to see the chase, and it's quick to overlook that.
Why are you stopping to look at a sandwich?
I think this is a good point to talk about the cinematography of the episode. They're using a lot of wide angle lenses to give us a lot of scenery, and it really affects how they set up shots. Even like a lot of times you'll have the conversation between Mulder and Scully. They'll be talking to the camera, and the camera angle will literally flip between the characters. Like they're not doing over the shoulders. They're not in the same scene. They're literally talking to the camera at each other. And I think that's because the setting, doesn't allow them. They can't have the camera set up the way they want, because they would catch too much of either the production team, in the room with them or whatever. But in this case, it's a great example. They use that shot to put her right in the middle and have the camera focusing right on that sandwich. So it's meant to give you that shot of...
It's interesting you say that, because there was actually a side note that Chris Carter used a wide-angle lens, which focused the actors to act directly to the camera rather than to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I Thankfully, I realized I read that prior to my second viewing. I was like, that's what gives it that different type of,
Yeah.
almost like
It's
that comical type feel to it. Or not, wrong word.
Well, it's definitely in keeping with the source material it's trying to emulate, because I think that happens a lot in the 30s Frankenstein. And he wants to capture that same look, so he's using the same angles, he's using the same scene setups.
I liked it. I thought it was a good choice on his part.
It's at this point we go crazy on the lightning, right? Like we're moving
getting
into the
close.
storm territory.
once they encounter the old man, and he takes them to his son.
Yeah, well,
And then the lightning flashes.
The lightning is going on, yeah. But no,
I
we
like
have the
that
chase
scene.
still to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're running, and the lightning does flash, and they look up at the top. It does. They look up at the top of the hill, and the old man is up there, yelling at them, and has a pig on a leash, as we all have done at some point in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I can actually say that I've actually had a pig on a leash. My sister has a pet pig, and I didn't know they even made leashes for them.
They make leashes for chickens. I just learned this today.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I know someone who had a support chicken.
That's-
I'm not kidding. We can move on.
Enough said.
So, the old man is at the top of the hill with his pig, yelling at them to turn the flashlights off. Mulder replies with, "But we're with the FBI." He says, "Well, they're not," and basically get the fuck off my property.
I'm surprised he doesn't have a shotgun over his shoulder, because usually that's the trope here, right?
Yeah,
They-
very much like in the pilot when
Exactly.
the sheriff is up there.
Silhouetted guy on a elevated position, looking down at you, threatening you to get off the property. They've done this before.
And here we get kind of a purposefully overacted scene from Jillian, don't we? We were told there was a monster here or something.
Yes.
The way she delivers that line is very direct, and
I'm sure this is all on point to remind us that it's a comic book. I'm going to go back and say that pretty much 20 times in this episode. I don't know if we need a little ding
Andrew,
every time it happens.
Was it a
but
comic book?
It's a comic book, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, just to make sure you know. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. He then says, the old man says, "Monster, what did I..." And he apparently has told these boys this, I'm guessing numerous times, that there's not a monster, and then tells them he'll show you the monster that you're looking for, which takes us to the University of Indiana News Press. And
I like the cut here.
Yeah.
it is a fantastic cut to Dr. Polidori.
They're reading an article about him to him, I think. Like
Professor creates own monsters is the headline.
and then the sweeps away, and there he is. And shout out to the actor in this case, which
John O'Hurley.
from Seinfeld, and
Jay Peterman.
I gather he's been either he wanted to be on the X-Files and they never had a role for him, or they always wanted him to be on the X-Files but never had a role for him. But anyway, obviously
he is a delight.
he is in his element right here.
Yeah.
He plays this so well, and such almost a caricature of the Frankenstein mad scientist.
Oh, he's Frankenstein. I mean, that is
Yeah.
there's no doubt for who he is taking on in this arc. Although he does change later, because he ends up being the one to lead them up, and that doesn't happen in Frankenstein. But
No.
it's a different.
It's comic book.
Yeah, it's comic book.
He wants to know basically what the hell they're doing there, and when they say your father, he basically calls his father a dumbass in not so many words. He calls him a simpleton farmer.
Simpleton.
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand anything that I do. And he says something about some sort of gene, the hoax.
Homeotic Hox gene.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
I'm gonna leave all the big words to you, Mike.
Please don't.
He really probably has the biggest ego, minus one person I've seen in the public eye, that I've ever seen.
Right.
Well,
As
he's
an
just
American,
written
I feel
that way.
This guy's very happy with himself.
Yeah.
he wants to be one of the Columbuses of science. And
Yes.
damn. I do enjoy his little lab assistant, I guess,
Yes.
who has no freaking clue what the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do with these? And then open the petri dish.
And then they fly
Yeah.
away. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. It's a nice comic turn.
He just stares at him.
What I like is, at this point, Polidori tries to send him away, saying, I have to travel tonight to the University of Ingolstadt to deliver an international address. I mean, where are they?
He's so proud of himself.
That the university is there. And I mean, that's apparently a call out to a trilogy of books called the Illuminata series, where the University of Ingolstadt exists. It doesn't, I think, actually exist, but
I've never heard of it in my life. I'm okay with admitting that.
but we are in lightning overdrive, I think, for this entire scene.
The entire scene is lightning constant. Just constant
Yeah.
lightning. And Scully does mention to him, unless he wants his achievements to be on the Jerry Springer show, that he makes time. There's a
And
long
then
pause from him.
He's intrigued. Jerry Springer.
Do you think I could be on the Jerry Springer show?
Never
Could
in my
I?
wildest dreams would I be on the Jerry Springer show.
Forget the Columbus of science. I want to be on Springer.
Well, we get a little bit of exposition now about this fruit fly business that he's working on.
Yeah.
And
I did not like the pictures. I was not.
I don't think you're
No.
supposed to. Especially when he describes him as the fly having legs coming out of his mouth. But
Yeah.
that does lead to my favorite setup of the episode, where I think Polidori comes into his own, and a line that's called back a lot. The whole business of why would you do that? Because I can. And then the light.
Because I can.
This fly has legs.
Growing out of his mouth.
Why would you do that?
Because I can.
Would that be done in humans?
That would go against every scientific convention,
But could it be done?
theoretically.
Yeah, the over accentuation of the lightning after every line in that exchange is just it's kind of where the episode shines. You know, it's that comedic element that the X-Files has been known to do.
Yeah.
And they're just very good at it. And that scene kind of
Pretty clear
It's
where
very
we
funny.
are.
Yeah, it is after every statement, isn't it?
It's punctuating the comedy. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're learning here that Dr. Polidori is messing with genes, the homeotic Hox gene, in flies. And he is, for one example, growing legs out of the fly's mouth. So this kind of, because he can,
And it's
and it's
casting,
putting him on the role of someone who could do terrible things.
Yeah, it's painting
So-
him as a villain, and it's giving
Yeah.
him the tools that are leading us to believe that he's responsible. But I think because he's kind of oversold as the villain, we are naturally going, but it could be this guy, but it's probably not, right? Because it's too obvious. I mean, it's still a
Right.
whodunit after all, and they're
is.
doling out the little tidbits of information that make us wonder who could be at fault here.
Yep. And Mulder wants to know if this could be done in humans. And he says theoretically.
Theoretically.
So they leave, and they do have a nice line of "Good night, Dr. Frankenstein."
Yes, making it obvious if we hadn't
Very-
got
yeah,
it
just-
already.
If you have not noticed.
If you haven't been paying attention.
And Scully's trying to explain to Mulder that there isn't a scientist that would dare to perform an experiment like that on humans.
She
Dr.
obviously wasn't
Polidori-
around.
It does.
think.
It does sort of make you think maybe he would, because
Yeah.
we've been
Be-
driven
yeah.
to a point where we believe he's full of himself. So yeah,
He would. I don't put it past him trying, at the very least. I don't think he really sees the consequences of what he does. It's what can it do for me? Like, how can it elevate my status? And if this works, I will be amazing.
yep. Okay.
Yeah,
So
all he cares about is the pomp and circumstance and what he's going to achieve, not the problems with it.
at this point, I think it's worth examining sort of the backstory that led us to this place. In that, am I getting this correctly, that the Great Mutado is this Dr. Polidori's first effort, and that Father Polidori is trying to make a mate for the Great Mutado because he's adopted the Great Mutado and is sad that when he goes, he'll have nobody. But it is, in fact, Dr. Polidori O'Hurley here who is responsible for the Great Mutado.
Yeah, I think he alludes to it later in the barn when he says you were a mistake. You were a mistake,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's your answer to your question, is he would do it, but we don't know that.
He did do it.
Yeah. Which is why he gets arrested. But again, way out there in the future.
So at the Polidori house, which even without color, I'm sorry, it looks like a terrible Martha Stewart catalog in there. Nobody needs that many damn pillows.
It made me think of a funeral parlor. You know, it was just had that floral look to it, and
there's a lot of flowers
But yes, good production design, because you go, I don't know if I'd want to live in that house.
It's nauseating almost.
Yeah.
I can't even picture it in color just because it's that extreme. But it's meant to be extreme, so. And it's very interesting that this is Dr. Polidori's bedroom, and he agreed to all this. I don't know, and I'm not a man, but I'm just saying, I don't know a man alive who would agree to all that shit.
I think he's just letting her have her way on all the decisions that he doesn't care about. You know, it's like, I got to sleep for 4 hours somewhere.
Yeah, he's probably in his life like, whatever.
Yeah.
I have more important things to do.
Yes, like winning a Nobel Prize, I believe, because she badly wants children, and from what I can gather from the conversation between the two, it's we'll talk about it later.
Yes.
Yeah, he has no real intentions of anything. Kids will only slow him down.
Elizabeth, you know how I feel about children. They're mewling little monsters.
But I want children.
What happened to our dream about getting out of this place, getting away from this hick town?
I think that's your dream.
Elizabeth, what do you want, a baby or a Nobel Prize? See you on Thursday.
Do you want to procreate with him, though? I mean,
he's not a bad-looking man.
He's John O'Hurley, yeah.
Not
just... If the audience could see Kerry's face. I think when Polidori says, you know how I feel about children, they're mewling little monsters. I mean, I don't know what conversation they're going to have where he changes his mind.
Right. I don't think there's a damn thing that he...
I think his best line is, what would you rather have, a child or a Nobel Prize? Oh, so good.
Well, gee,
and it's not like she's going to get the Nobel Prize. I mean,
she's not going to get the accolades.
I can dust that trophy. Great.
So he leaves for the weekend to go to the funny sounding places. The word that you knew, Andrew.
The University of Ingolstadt.
Yes, that one. And he'll be back. And she throws herself very dramatically on the bed. But as she's doing that, outside the window, the circus tent material.
Very cool scene.
It's a nice callback. And classic that you don't need a whole lot of information to know exactly what is going to happen next.
Yeah. Very cool.
We are then taken to JJ's country diner. Scully grabs a newspaper. Mulder goes in, and these are some of the most special, unique.
I would like you to find the correct adjectives in this case.
Back Hills country bumpkins that I've ever seen.
Definitely some creative casting involved here, because they couldn't
now you make me look bad because you said that very nicely. And now I'm the asshole here.
Well, listen, it's bread and the bone up here. So all I can say is they obviously didn't want to get anyone looking too freaky, but they just wanted them to look freaky enough
And I think a lot of it has to do with the camera, the way I'm trying to be nice, the way the camera is shooting them, and maybe some prosthetics and makeup.
No, I think they're born
I'm trying
that
to
way.
backpedal back.
I think they're legit, born that way, and
Well, then that's
I don't think
unfortunate.
they don't need to be apologetic about it. I like that they got cast.
Own yourself. Own what you
exactly
what you look like.
Can you guys guess what I'm about to do?
You're about to tell us what other episodes we'll have seen these characters in.
Yes. Actually, namedly, Xantha Radley, who plays the waitress. We will not see her again until the movie I Want to Believe.
Really?
She is the first
Monica
victim.
Banas.
Yep.
I pulled that out of my ass. I did not. I have not seen the movie.
She's
in years.
Monica.
I can't even remember what the movie's about. I haven't seen it in so long. I'm looking forward to us reviewing it, but
She is the first victim from the prologue in that movie.
Okay.
She has a pronounced nose.
And those eyes.
That is how I identified her after
those
watching
eyes are
that
also-
movie.
Well, it's another case of
And
that,
I
that
mean
wide
nothing
angle
bad
lens.
at it.
Yep.
That wide angle lens is just so crazy on her, because they get right in there with it. And then she's right in Mulder's grill. It's like, ugh, come on. What is this scene?
There's just no personal space at all.
The camera does not allow for any personal space.
So he's walking. He just wants to find a seat and sit down and eat. Meanwhile, Scully's grabbing the newspaper and reads FBI hunts hometown monster. Agent admits stories believed to be true.
Hey, we also get our first introduction to Chicken Reporter Lady.
We do. Yes.
I think it's worth noting that, she's our mystery character, obviously writing down important notes or whatever, and furtively escaping.
Jutting her head from side to side.
Yeah.
She does a good job at it.
She does.
It's very convincing because you're like, okay, what is up with Chicken Later? Because that's all you can think, right? I think she's even credited as Chicken-like Woman.
Yep.
Yes, she is. Chicken-like woman. And she just looks, I don't know what she's writing or why, but she's just staring right at Mulder and is taking a whole bunch of notes. So kudos to her, I guess. And the waitress has every single breakfast item, I think, in creation, perhaps?
Yes.
Read off to him.
They are very interested in having him dine with them.
These people are very excited to have an FBI agent in their hometown.
Oh, yeah.
And Mulder just wants some coffee. It's on the house, compliments of JJ, but remember that's with two J's.
Two J's.
Him and Izzy are best friends. Him with his two J's and the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Right.
They went to school together. They had to have. And then he's asked if it's true that Jerry Springer is coming to town. I've never had to say this man's name as much as I've had to say it in the past hour.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an answer, but this is when Scully enters with the newspaper and says to him, "We've been had." It's basically her explaining it's everything that they talked about verbatim in this article.
It's been recorded.
It's almost as if it's been recorded or something.
I know. Hard cut to the Berkowitz house.
To a really pissed off Shayna Berkowitz. Get your butt front and center.
We get a nice little scene with Mulder and Scully peeking down the hallway.
Yeah.
To ask their questions.
Classic.
Even though he's done something terrible, they're kind of playing it, not such a big deal. It's a little bit more comedic.
Well, from this point on, it's all comedic, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it is. With the exception of the one scene that's not as comedic. The barn scene isn't as comedic.
Yeah.
Just saying. But other than that, yes, all comedic.
Yeah. But even then, at this point, it's just about getting us to a point where we understand Izzy is indeed responsible for the unauthorized tape recording. And Shayna knows very well it was him because Christmas 1993.
Goes and gets it, hands it to Shayna, and upon pressing play, they hear that same, she recognizes the voice in the background as nicely says, "Oh, that's a song that was playing when I got knocked up."
I gotta ask, how did we get this information? Because I thought the tape recorder came out to record them chasing after Great Mutato, but now we have the Cher song. So is this maybe some other recording that was made?
Yeah, some other tape, or not some other tape, more tape from before.
You know how we used to record shit off the radio? Recorded off.
Yeah, my cousin and I did this kind of stuff all the time.
All right, so it was recording when the monster had visited 3 months ago.
That's one of the most unbelievable parts for me. Like how is it?
I just wanted to call it X-Files.
Well, I'm calling it Izzy at this point because remember he is the writer of this episode.
Izzy,
yeah, that's true.
And that's creepy that he would record his mom getting.
I don't think that. I think he must have been in the house. I don't know. Who knows? He was messing with his tape recorder and hit record.
Recording, you know, two buttons.
That's fine.
With his mom.
X-Files. We're going to go with that. Yeah.
Let's not take this any darker than it needs to be.
Oh, God.
But Izzy calling it out, saying, well, that's him. That's the Great Mutado. That's who we're listening to. Don't you know? I mean, it's just so...
It's Cher and the Great Mutado.
Yeah.
There's like peanut butter and jelly. They go together just like that.
Don't you FBI people know this? Come on.
It's almost like you're doing real police work back at the FBI.
And then it's intercut strangely with actual Great Mutado dancing in the current victim's home while whatever's happening is happening.
Lovely dancing by
it's just a very Chris Owens. Yeah. I was saving it for the end, but yes, as everyone knows, Chris Owens is playing the Great Mutado, who also played Cigarette Smoking Man's younger self in Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man in season 4, and will go on to play Jeffrey Spender later this season.
So I
into
think
season 6.
Yeah, I think that the Great Mutado dancing at this point, the callback is that his father got to take him to basically his crime scenes, and he got to play while his dad was doing his crimes. But his takeaway is that this allowed him access to the world that had been denied to him. So, again, I have problems with this whole attempt to humanize the character and the circumstances. But, again, Izzy's story. That's the way he's deciding to tell it.
Izzy needs therapy.
Anyways. Well, and Chris Carter by extension. But anyway.
Yes. They both need a lot of it. That's all I can come up with. So they're leaving the Berkowitz's house, and of course they're being stared at for what I'm assuming is all the wrong reasons, because I'm assuming everybody in the town read the paper at the same time.
Probably. Comic book land, that's how information travels.
Good call. And Scully wants to know if he thinks that if Dr. Polidori has something to do with it. And this is when I might, only because, and I say this with great shame, that I have never actually seen Frankenstein. So I'll go hang my head in shame.
You're basically watching it, in part 2 right here. I mean, there are a few differences.
Well, he's
just a few.
Mulder's explaining. He's basically quoting it. So it threw me a little bit, only because I'm not familiar with the movie, which I do say very sheepishly.
Well, I would say that the takeaway is Dr. Polidori is being very much caricatured from the character Victor Frankenstein. Frankenstein's driven to create life, to reanimate life, to sort of defy death, and he creates his reanimated man, but ultimately he's dissatisfied with him, and the Frankenstein's monster gets his freedom, and things go badly for that. So I think that's the fact that is the vehicle for this episode. It's not too hard to see.
Scully is very alarmed that he would reduce Dr. Polidori to a stereotype as a mad scientist.
Which is a callback to Mulder's point early on in the episode. Why would you reduce these people to the stereotype of wanting to be famous?
You know what that's reminding me of is Humbug, where they had the scene in the hotel where it's like, for example, by your plain clothes, I could reduce you to the stereotype of an FBI agent, but I am an FBI agent.
But I am. So good.
Yeah.
He was so pissed.
Yeah.
So good. your unimaginative tie.
Yeah, that's it. That's my favorite line.
That's such a good episode. So Mulder and Scully are now driving, and she's looking through the folder, basically confirming Shayna Berkowitz's tubal ligation. And 2 months ago, she had 2 pregnancy tests, both tested positive. Mulder then just randomly stops the car and drives in reverse.
I don't think it's random, though. I think it's
well, it is not random.
He's seen the tented house.
It's random to us initially.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And then it's revealed that the house is there. And it's
sorry
tinted.
to jump all over you. Yeah.
Which is, can I just say how, in the context, not outside of the context of the episode, let's just say this was a normal X-Files episode, how ballsy it would be to do this in broad daylight. Like,
well,
I understand more if he did it at night, like the first victim, Shayna. Because there's that concealment of darkness, at least a little bit. But I don't know, broad daylight on the side of the road. I just don't know.
But I don't know how much.
Ballsy.
I don't know how much time has passed. Like, because I think the initial setup, Shayna said that she was out of it for 3 days. So I think that the tarping of the house actually is pretty good cover for the crime, because if you get your house tented for termites, I suspect that's not something that happens overnight. Like, it's got to be tented for quite a while, and then they can take off the tent and let it air out, and even that probably takes time. So I would guess that maybe he came in at night, although he's there when Mulder and Scully come in.
He's dancing in the day, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There's light streaming in too. Yeah, it's ballsy.
Yeah.
But I think he also
I'm just saying, yeah, like
we're circling right back to ballsy. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But yes, so they enter the house without gas masks.
Again, written by Izzy.
Yeah, I know.
He's
That's
just
fun,
not
though.
covering all his bases. That's all.
Yeah.
Slip of the pen. That's it. Is it Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves?
That's
I think
the
is
one.
playing.
Yeah.
I actually like that song, which is, I don't know if that's
not bad.
embarrassing or okay.
It's just what it is.
Elizabeth Polidori is unconscious on the bed. I believe on the bed.
I think she's
I
in
couldn't remember
the covers
the
too
word
and
for it.
everything. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's kind of wrapped.
And Scully hears coughing from the floor from the other side of the bed, because we cannot have an X-Files episode without them screaming each other's name.
Mm-hmm.
We have it there.
Yes.
So she's yelling for Mulder, and they both pass out, and the old man with a gas mask, an old-fashioned gas mask,
Yeah.
says, "I told you there ain't no monsters."
Yeah.
I was going to say, is there any side effects to prolonged exposure to this stuff?
I was avoiding saying that, but yes. Again, not to what if it, because I have said I am sworn off what ifing for this episode. But yeah, I mean, there is a direct allusion to it, because Great Mutato does say later on, "I'm sorry, I can't yell or whatever because the gas, or I've got damaged my throat." So, but I can't imagine.
Just
And this
sitting
whole
there.
conceit of the house being tarped up, and the gas being confined in it, and our victim is in this house for 3 days with the gas. Like,
They're all surviving.
How were they not dead? I guess maybe there's some realism out there somewhere that this chemical will just keep you under. It won't actually kill you. The density of it in the house or whatever, it's enough.
Yeah.
But, because they said the chemical is meant to anesthetize herds of animals, right?
Yeah.
I get it.
So it's got to be pretty fucking strong, right?
Yeah. Well, they go down quick. It's not like they
Right.
spend a little time in there and boom, they're slowly going down. But yeah, that's a sore point for me. Is like, I feel like they could have, like, if I was the criminal trying to achieve this crime, it'd be like chloroform on a rag. Anyone, that'll get you to where you need to be. But yet
Works
this whole
a lot
thing of
faster.
tenting the house, and
And that ridiculousness of what they go through to perpetrate this crime is part of the comic book. I think it's like, it's so elaborate and so almost just unbelievable.
Like, when Shayna woke up, was her house still tarped?
Yeah, that's what I'm. It's
Or
like,
did they come back to remove
Did
the
they
tarp?
ever say?
No, of
they
course
don't
not.
say. I think it's just
logistics of it would
assumed
be-
that it's removed before she wakes up.
Yeah.
And I will say we were all wrong. The next scene has a police officer in it.
Damn it.
When
Wait, does it?
Dr. Polidori comes home.
But
He's there. I see him standing.
Oh,
come on.
okay,
He's in the
sure.
background. But there he is.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
He's
no, you
clearly
see
not.
it.
Clearly not. An active part of the investigation. though.
Yeah, he's
He
just
is
there
literally
for
a
looks.
silhouette just to give color to the scene.
Yeah.
There was a reporter in the room too. I mean, Chicken Lady's there, and I mean, come on, what is this crime scene?
Chicken Lady is everywhere.
Yeah.
She just knows where to go.
Mulder and Scully look fantastic in this scene. I love it. That first cut, once they're in the interrogation and it cuts back to them, they both look like they're hung
They've
over.
had a hard night. Yeah.
Oh man,
It was a rough night and nobody had fun.
Mulder can't keep his balance.
I think the whole scene's hysterical.
Oh yeah.
It's played very, very well. They're greeted by Dr. Polidori, and I'm reading a line from the script that says police and chicken-like woman. So, there's a cop.
Yeah, but it's lowercase. So again,
it is lowercase.
It's
It is
definitely not
lowercase.
important.
He's definitely just wall dressing.
Yeah.
He just basically wants to know what the hell they're doing in his house, which is a fair question.
And they find the key pieces of evidence that Shayna was showing them. The frying pan and then the empty giant jar of peanut butter.
I think when Polidori sees the frying pan and sort of identifies the substance, he knows that it's his father that's responsible.
The pieces
He's
are
got
falling
that look
together
to
for him.
Yeah. Because he also then says, after a pause, no, I don't know what this substance is.
Yeah.
Mulder had an interesting line about the frying pan. He said they were violated.
Yes,
Their frying pans were violated.
Yeah.
because the frying pans are what we're concerned about here. I mean,
I found that a little.
It's interesting word choice for that.
Yep. And then he falls into the garbage can.
yes. The reaction of Mrs. Polidori to being impregnated. I mean, I get
She's
it. We've
so
established that she
excited.
wants to be pregnant,
But
but
like this, I don't think so.
no, exactly. It's all wrong. But again, Izzy is the writer. He's making the story go forward.
Izzy is the writer and is making this story go forward. But at some point, Chris Carter, as Izzy,
Oh God, yeah.
has to realize that he does have a women's population watching his show.
Right.
I don't think he was aware of that in the 90s. I think
No.
that he was writing it for himself.
We didn't have that's right. We didn't have rights until at least the 2000s. It's fine.
Well, and
To watch his
do,
music.
do you even now is the real question. But
Oh boy.
Debatable.
whoa, major slumps all around. All that to say that I think Chris Carter was writing this for himself because he thought
He
it was
was.
interesting, and I don't think he really had a greater concern. Like, he knew he had a popular vehicle. He could do pretty much whatever he wanted. I think the problem, and I'm jumping a little bit to my end here, is that he didn't have another set of eyes on this episode. Like, he had some other producers, but this was a written by, directed by, and I don't think anybody was ever there to steer him away from
You
certain
need that
points.
checks and balances.
Exactly. Some of the best
That-
episodes were combo
That
teams,
has
right?
to be probably the one part of the episode that, as a female anyways, that I took exception to, regardless of who the narrator it was, to getting that excited about someone you don't know breaking into your house, knocking you out, and potentially,
Right.
I mean, the other...
It's ludicrous.
It's
It is.
totally wrong. It's completely wrong. I mean, I know you could go down an avenue of you can't expect everybody to react the same way in the circumstances, and that maybe there is a small percentage of the population that would react this way. But like, on the balance of it, like, if we're reducing characters to stereotypes, which is the whole thrust of this episode, there's no way that this person's going to react this way to being violated this way. I mean, it's ludicrous, and yeah, I think that it's not unreasonable to think that it's wrong to think that this is totally normal. It's I think in the 90s everyone was willing to look at it askance.
It's just a little out of touch, I think.
Just a little bit.
I'm trying to be nice. That's as nice as I get.
Yeah.
Calling it a little out of touch is being a bit generous, I think.
Well, So we go to the farm of the old man, and the Great Mutato is watching the movie Mask.
This was a nice touch.
And on a weird
I
TV, I gotta say, that's a
Yeah.
very old school TV.
I think
Very
that's a
fitting to the-
throwback to that old styly
Yeah.
aesthetic they were going for. And it's not everywhere, but it's placed in small spots like this where it just kind of gives more of an antique-y feel to the whole episode.
I like the scene that they were playing for it. Basically, Cher's character saying to him, what's not to love, and I believe there's a callback to that.
Yeah.
Later on.
I like that they showed this scene of him watching The Mask. Not only because it has Cher in it, and the episode is obsessed with Cher, but
Just the
gives
episode,
us,
not the writer.
Well, yeah, right. I think it gives us that needed insight into the Great Mutato and what his role in this is. I think, this is probably talking about him, even though it's just a scene from the movie. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's very much identifying with it.
Oh, it's his dream, to meet, a girl that he can fall in love with.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that a lot of what Cher songs are? Longing. And...
Yeah. His only friends are on this videotape right now.
That makes me feel so sad, Mike.
Well, I mean, that's essentially what they're doing, right? I mean, he doesn't know anyone.
When you put it like that, it makes me feel very sad.
Well, remember, Mutato is not the bad guy in this episode, right?
I know.
He is. Yeah. He's initially cast as a bad guy because that's all we as the audience see. But
right.
Eventually we get to learn that he is the byproduct of evil and not, he himself is not evil. Although there is an argument to be made that, he's kind of participating and not stopping things from happening. But
initially I was going to say, did the intellectual capacity to stop it, but he seems very well spoken.
Yeah, his monologue at the end there, it's like, no, this guy knows what's going on. Yeah, he's complicit, but he gets carried off by the cops at the end too. So
yeah. So the old man is coming into his kitchen, sitting at the table. He's looking through photos of himself, and the script says his son, the Great Mutato, but he just raised him as his son, right?
I think so. Yeah, okay. I think this is, well, I mean, who knows who the genetic father is, but yeah, I think raised him as his son because Dr. Polidori,
that's his creation.
He's the creator, but we don't know where these genes came from.
Yeah.
So Polidori enters the house, doesn't even knock. He just comes in, very rude, very rude. He sits.
I don't think the Polidori family is all about being nice.
They're not well-adjusted people.
No.
He's a good-looking man, not well-adjusted. Very smart. It's a shame. He says to tell him it's not true that you didn't, you wouldn't, and why. And the old man says, as that recurring line, because I can.
That is such a good callback because it's like, all it says is we're the same, you and I just... I've got my reasons and you've got your reasons. It's a pretty brutal callback.
It's kind of his dad slapping him in the face because he feels like he knows his son and his son will do whatever he can to kind of be on top of what he's doing and be the first at whatever cost.
You got to imagine that the Polidoris have had a conversation of you made this, you made this creation, you cast it off. I'm taking care of it. The least you can do is give it some companion, using the same process. That way he wouldn't be alone because all he's got is me.
And not really for much longer.
Why? What happens next?
Oh my God. No, he stands to live a long, healthy life and they go on a trip to the Bahamas.
Oh, that's a nice ending to this episode.
However, before that happens, Polidori attacks his father and kills him.
Some great camera angles, and like the dark
the shadows and all that. I liked it.
Yeah, the shadows is very, very big callback to 1930s cinema.
Yep, just the death is very dramatic. Yeah,
more so Dracula that I can think of right now, but yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a scene in Frankenstein, 30s Frankenstein, that this is taking a big scene from, but I haven't got the time to look at it, so we'll just imagine.
Well, we'll just assume you're correct.
I like it.
We're now at JJ Signer again. Whole different feel when Mulder comes in.
Yeah. The atmosphere is just a little bit different.
A little hostile.
I like JJ, though.
Spitting directly
Just-
into the
just
eggs.
Spits directly into the fried eggs.
Oh, that's so gross.
They're not happy with Mulder, are they?
They don't seem to be. She serves him the eggs, wants to know what's this. Compliments of JJ's coffee? Or would you like some coffee? And then proceeds to spill it in his lap.
Not a place you want to burn a guy.
That was not the line that David wanted to use. He said, "You don't want to do that. Now my crotch is going to be up all night."
Arguably better line, but I see why they went with the other one.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know how I came across that, but I was like, all right.
Well, I think Dee Dee is pretty famous for throwing a lot of ad libs in there and just,
Oh, yeah.
giving the editors a lot to work with.
He has that very wry, dry sense of humor, and he plays it very well.
Yeah.
The waitress is then looking at the newspaper headline, FBI agents say monster a hoax.
So they've had their dreams robbed because the FBI says that their cause celeb is all a big fake.
Yeah. Not happy at all.
And there's a commotion outside, and they want to show people the monster, and I believe it's Izzy with a really bad...
Yeah, it looks like a butt.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look like two heads, but he's got this mask on that it looks like a butt.
Yes. And says, "Here's your monster."
The next shot of him is pretty amazing.
Well, I like that we have Shayna saying, or the postal guy says, "I intercepted a package," and Shayna says, "How would you like your face to intercept my fist, Coconut Head?" It's so ridiculous. But then Scully comes around saying, "You may have been right. These people can be reduced as cultural stereotypes." It's so good.
Oh, this whole scene's pretty
I
good.
just really like the scene a lot. Scully has joined Mulder at the back of the crowd. Shayna is still defending her son, and Mulder makes reference to the same fact they unmasked the monster, and Scully says, otherwise, the residue in the frying pan was an agricultural product, knocks out animals that is used by farmers, and they have to register with the FDA. It's probably the most official thing that is said in this entire episode.
Or the FBI.
or the FBI.
Well, and since we only have one simpleton farmer in the whole episode so far, we know who our target is now.
We do.
Right.
We then cut to Old Man's kitchen. The Great Mutato has found him on the floor. It was a heartbreaking scene.
It was well done. And I
Very
mean,
well
well shot too, is you don't see the face. It's all done in silhouette. And his sort of pathetic mewlings are really evocative. Yeah, it was a good scene.
When he starts shaking him, it's like, oh, man.
Yeah. It's like the Ewoks in The Return of the Jedi when
It's
one
that,
of them dies.
yeah.
And then
Very
the other
much.
Ewok is like, "Come on, get up. We got to go." And then he pushes the Ewok and he doesn't move. And then he's like, starts to
You're
do
not
his little
making this
Ewok
better,
hand.
Andrew.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then they both get up and they go on a vacation to the Bahamas.
Thank you. You made everything better.
Hey.
Oh, God. So the Great Mutato takes his father to the barn where he buries him, and then they go on a vacation to the Bahamas, I hope. It's just making me very sad, like...
Reliving that scene?
Reliving... I didn't like it. I mean, it was, like you said, the whole thing was fantastically shot. It was well done. It was...
Yeah, and then he starts with his hands too, right? He starts clawing in the dirt, and then he uses a shovel. Oh, it's just, it's pretty wrenching.
So Mulder and Scully drive up to the farm. They enter the barn, and the animals are there's a lot of animals.
Mm-hmm.
Mulder finds the bar of anesthetic.
Hey, nicely done. knockout thingy.
Knockout
puck.
thingy.
The knockout cake.
Mulder says, I think we may be too late. Then they hear a noise above them. They draw their weapons. I thought at first it was just the pigeon.
I thought it was a great mutato. I thought he was up there.
Well, the pigeon flew
a red
away.
herring.
Oh, it's always a bait and switch with the X-Files, so it couldn't possibly be him.
But close enough, it's the chicken lady.
Chicken
saying,
lady reporter.
Asking, please don't kill me. And that, surprisingly, she works for the newspaper. Shocking.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big revelation. She says the old man was murdered. Scully asks by whom. And inside the house, Mulder's looking through a photo album and says, it's alive.
Yeah, nice Frankenstein callback. A little bit on the nose for my taste, but all right. I'll take it.
Disregard the fact that they used the title earlier on in the episode.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what sent you over
they've
the
already
edge.
name dropped Frankenstein. I mean, what else we got to do now?
We're going to have an angry mob next.
On cue.
Yeah, the angry townspeople are, God, it's so tropey, are outside with their torches.
These are legit torches and lanterns, but yes.
And they go outside Mulder and Scully go outside to kind of face the crowd and see what's going on. And Polidori, of course, leading the charge, says, we want the murderer. I just have not an issue with the scene like this, but when there's that over, like, all together cheering, after everything, I don't know. It's just me. It's just too trope.
Are you what-ifing the episode? Carrie? Are you suggesting that audiences, like mobs, wouldn't act like this in real life?
You're misunderstanding me. Yes, I am. I'm what-ifing the hell out of that. I'm sorry.
All right. If you pull the camera back and imagine this as a frame in a comic book with a whole bunch of angry villagers going, yeah,
and they're all going to go, yes,
this is exactly what it is. Yes.
The comic book.
Again, I sat there right with you going, this is ridiculous, but then I remembered, nope, it's a comic book. Just keep on telling myself that. It makes it better.
Is it ridiculous?
Well, but they're all cheering behind him, like they are legitimately a mob, right? They don't have any independent thought. They are in lockstep with his wishes.
January 6th.
Okay, but even then you saw some unique.
It's okay.
But even then you saw some unique thought, like you had,
Was there though?
Well, they had some weirdos, but you had people taking taking the podium. You had people sitting in Nancy Pelosi's desk. You had a lot of different things happening, and not this unified core of people. I like how craven Polidori is made out to be, because we know, the audience, that Polidori is the one that's killed his father, but he is casting Great Mutato as the monster. So he's there to lead the mob, to collect him, and I guess suggest, take justice to take its course, kill the monster, but it's to deflect the blame away from him.
Yeah, and what an easy target, too. The mob is already afraid of this guy because there's been these stories of a monster lurking around town.
Exactly. We'll search every crevice, every ravine. You get him alive if you can, but you get him.
They set the barn on fire.
I think that's accidental.
Yeah, it was.
With their
still.
torches held
I think that was a
improperly.
Oh shit moment. Now what? Now what do we do? Mulder and Scully see the Great Mutato kind of poking his head out from behind the barn.
Mm-hmm.
And they run. They try to pursue him. He's hiding in a corner, and he looks absolutely terrified.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Scully very gently tells him that they're not there to hurt him. Wants to know if he understands, and I like Mulder's. I hope not.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's an interesting part.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that they're gonna have to get him out of there, or they're gonna kill him, or they will kill him. That's when they announce that the barn's on fire. Great job, guys.
Classic mob.
Somebody left their tiki torch unattended.
Yeah, and as they're kind of peering out and watching the mob attack the barn, no one else but reporter lady spots them and calls out their position. It's like,
Thanks, reporter lady.
Thank you. We didn't shoot you a scene ago.
We didn't kill you.
We
Like
wish
you
we
asked.
had.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So my little what if came up a little bit here, and I had to tamp it back down. Comic book. But I was thinking they kind of allude to the fact they've got to come up with some kind of plan to get the Great Mutato out of there, or else they're going to kill him. Right? This is our opportunity for Agents Mulder and Scully to do something Mulder and Scully like. But instead, the plot just drives right at them and says, "Oh no, they're there! Boom, crowds on them." And it's like, okay, did you run out of time? Did you run out of, literally you had to cut the good scene? Or
I take issue with that because Mulder fixes the end.
yeah, but this is a moment where we could have had a diversion, and a cat and mouse thing, and then they're caught later on. But they didn't do it.
They just stood there.
They just stood there and got fingered by the chicken lady.
Yeah,
don't look at me like that.
The mob comes at the cellar in a very, very horrifying way. All the windows being broken out from around them. They're all surrounded. It's an oddly realistic scene to me. I don't know why.
We may have seen it before. I don't know.
Well, I like that the mob moves in, but like it's that thing of who's gonna instigate the violence. Like they all are angry.
They'll stop.
But they all stop, right? Because I think that probably does happen in a mob. It's like everyone, like the mob brings you to a point.
Are we really going to move forward?
But like who's going to take the first swing and authorize me that I can now take that next swing because we all agree that we're doing this.
And none of them are that person.
No, it's all on Polidori, right?
Yep. And he's a very big talker. I don't think he's so much with the action and but like more like I don't want to get my hands dirty type of, so to speak, like in a fight or whatever. I just don't see him being that person. But nobody seems to want to go, and they call him, I think he was a creation, and that's when the Great Mutato, and I really like his exposition here.
His monologue dump.
Yes, his monologue dump. And, Mulder basically, every time Polidori goes to interrupt, just basically telling him, just shut up. Like, let him speak. And in the scene, there's a very big, it seems to be a very big play on humans looking like the animals. Like, I think there's a goat and somebody has, like, a goatee or something.
Yeah, there's a billy goat thing going on there.
And we've already seen Chicken Lady.
We have seen Chicken Lady.
And it's that implication that all of these people are the product of some mad science.
But I guess the question, I mean, if you want to drag that one up into the light, are they legitimately hybrids, or do they have chicken genes in them? And if so, like, who did that? Was it Dr. Polidori, and he's, now answering for these crimes? Or... that would go back, right? Like, how old is Izzy? How old is the Chicken Lady?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, how old would
Izzy was 18, I think they said at the beginning.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I don't know whether it's just supposed to be like a visual thing, or if it's.
I think it's to make us think, maybe, like to I don't know, frankly, I think it's just an interesting visual idea. They had a little gag to sort of link the characters with the animals, and if anything, maybe to say that they're being led like animals. That could be the other thing to take away, is that the mob that they are has been led like this herd of animals. They don't have sort of higher thought to discern they're being led into this potential slaughter. I don't know. I didn't think about it too much.
I just found it a little interesting.
I think I took it a little bit more literally.
Okay.
That's just, I could be very wrong.
Well, the listeners will tell us in the comments who's right here.
Indeed. Great Mutato, towards the end of his monologue, does say that he knows what they did was wrong, but in what they did, they were able to give them, or I think referring to Shayna, a loving son. And that's when he expresses that he was able to see the books and their records and home media centers. I haven't heard that word in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And he got to learn of things that he never would have learned of. And I can't remember, but I think the camera does pan to Scully at some point, and she has such an empathetic look on her face just after listening to him. And I think they all are confused, I think, by the end of it as to what they're supposed to believe or follow, or what do you do with him? I mean, do you treat him as he was complicit with his father, or do you just let him go to a Cher concert?
And I think initially, yes, he was going to be prosecuted.
But Cher was in town.
Well, so, okay, I think the point to focus in on here is when Great Mutado says, what we did was wrong. But, you know, like he starts off there admitting that there has been a transgression.
Yes.
My problem is that they then go into the but. In our trespasses, we gave you a loving son, and then I went to places I'd never dreamed of. I learned of things of the world, and a mother's love I'll never know. You know, it's like, so you're basically saying Adolf Hitler maybe did one or two good things within all the bad things he did. You know, it's like that doesn't. Right. I'm sorry.
That's a good point.
The rationale that he's throwing out there, to my mind, does not excuse the transgression. But
you should never say but. There's no.
Yeah,
but
it's right. Like, I mean, you could say what we did was wrong, but, you know, I saved 40 children from burning fire because I happen to be in the area. It's like, well, you maybe can give me some pros and cons there. But what you're talking about is that you evolved as a person while this horrible thing was happening in your knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Not
well
cool.
said, Andrew. I completely
Good
agree.
Points.
And that wasn't anything I ever really... I think I was so caught up in listening to the monologue, and I'm going to give a nod to Mark Snow on the score.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
playing behind.
I had that in my notes.
I'd give a nod to Chris Owens, too. Like, it's compellingly delivered. The text is good, but I think it's only evocative because he's so good at, you know, giving us that performance. And Izzy wrote it, so of course he's going to get off, right? He's you know, it has to have a happy ending. But more importantly, because eventually Mulder's going to say, "I want to speak to the writer."
This is wrong.
Yeah.
This is all wrong. It's not supposed to end like this.
And he's directly referencing Frankenstein at that point.
Yeah.
Because,
All right. Well, then Polidori gets taken away in a police car for crimes against humanity. I mean,
well, obviously the murder. I mean, I think we can just surmise that came out.
He confessed, or there was some evidence that came up. I mean, it happens off stage, sure. And the Great Mutado is, I guess,
going to go.
He's going to go. He's in Mulder's and Scully's car, I think. So yeah, we get the impression he's going to get arrested, but for, again, what is the crime here? Technically, he's an accomplice.
Just an accomplice. Yeah, I guess that's the worst thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mulder is taking exception with the fact that, you know, this compelling monologue has made him question what is going to be the fate of the Great Mutado. So, you know, there needs to be a better ending. And we get a real meta moment where he's like, I don't want it to end this way. Where's the writer? We're going to have this writing changed. Izzy, come here. Because Izzy literally enters.
He enters the room.
Yeah.
And then the entire town goes to see Cher.
Yes. Do you want to describe this final scene for us, Kerry?
It seems to be almost like a parade of cars, so I am assuming it's the entire town.
Yep.
Driving to this concert, and there's some very cute moments. Andrew, I'll leave you out of it. Mike, you understand what I'm saying.
Does this have something to do with that shipping thing I've heard so much?
Yes, that you will not buy into. But I think even more than that is the look on Mutado's face when he is pulled up by Cher to dance with you. He's like a happy kid in a candy store that you can't. He's just so excited about that, and Mulder stands up and it almost looks kind of sheepishly puts his hand out to have Scully dance with him, and because he keeps his head, I think he keeps his head down while he's doing it.
I think it's an Elvis move.
An Elvis move?
Yeah, I think that is evocative of Elvis, the way he sort of langs out that arm to come dance with me, girl.
In that case, very sweet. Oh yeah, it does actually say, yeah, like Elvis. Good
I
call.
didn't even read that.
I didn't.
I guess I just know so much about Elvis.
Loser. No.
And the last shot is them dancing, and it's it freezes on the two of them and turns their likeness, their image, into a comic.
If you haven't been paying attention, it's all a comic book.
Andrew, was it a comic?
It was a
the entire
comic
time?
book. Yeah, totally.
Good to know.
Question, why Walking in Memphis? Why that song? Just a happy little tune. There are no other Cher songs?
I don't think that it's just straight up happy. I think it's got a little bit of solemn feel to it in the beginning. I don't know if it's... Maybe it is one of her most popular songs. Obviously, it is a very popular song, but...
I don't think it's even hers, though. I think it's a cover.
No, it is a cover.
Yeah, I can't remember who does it, but she definitely wasn't the original.
The internet tells me it's Mark Cohn.
Oh, that's right. And that's sad because I actually have that on my phone too.
Well,
his version of it. My slip up. Then that's it. There's the comic book. The last page closes, and that's it. That's the end of the episode.
End of the episode.
Nice to see Chris Carter's little credit there done in a radically different font, the comic book style.
Yeah, I think the only other time they do that is DPO, when it shows up on the TV at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do the first couple credits on the TV in DPO's room.
Oh, right, when he's making the final thoughts, guys?
Okay, so obviously I think I've said a number of times now, it's a comic book. And I think that's the only way I can get through it without what-ifing the heck out of it. And it, as we sort of alluded at the beginning, it exists outside of the regular X-Files universe. So taken on its own, it's fun. It really set up a universe, in this homage to Frankenstein. That said, I think it's completely tone deaf when it comes to the treatment of the victims and the crimes that are created here, and that has not aged well at all. I think it's got some real problems, and I kind of wish that they had dealt with that a little differently, because as much as you can say, oh well, it's a comic book and Izzy is the writer, it's his perspective, he's an unreliable narrator or whatever you want to say. The fact is, you're still putting this on the screen, and you're still making your statement about it. So I just wish they had done something different, because I think that really, you can't move past that. And I think the main problem is that it's squarely on Chris Carter's shoulders. He is both the writer and director, and I'm sure he's got producers, but this is his show, right? Like, he can do whatever he wants. He's in season 5 now with, a huge tell him. Exactly. Nobody's going to tell him that you're making some weird choices here.
He's got a movie.
So I think the credit, he got lots of accolades for this episode, but I think largely the blame for it lies on him, that he was able to put this episode out there and treat the characters this way. So it works if you can suspend your disbelief. But for me, the appeal of the X-Files is that it largely feels real. It's scary because it's like just a little bit shade off of this could happen. But this episode does not do any of that. It exists so far outside of reality that you just have to sit there and go, all right, I get what you're trying to do. Good for you,
Mike?
Yeah, I think it is a weird position to find yourself in as a fan of the show and a fan of the episode. I think it is, for what it is extremely well done. I think it's unfortunate that the themes in this episode, or the crimes in this episode, were treated as lightly as they were. I think that sucks, and it's obviously not something that should be glossed over like that. It's hard when you think about kind of weighing subject matter over the thing as a whole, or trying to remove yourself from reality and just enjoying the episode. I think the subject matter was probably a misstep for Chris Carter. I don't think he meant anything ill about it. I just don't think he was giving it the due thought that it needed.
I think if one person, had reviewed that script and said, "Hey, Chris, do you know this could be taken a certain way? Maybe you want to do a little sidebar on how this goes."
And in the context of, I'm a firm believer in nothing is off the table in terms of storytelling. Like, we shouldn't be afraid to talk about things, but the execution is important. And it's a big thing when something this big, something this hurtful can be glossed over and kind of just dismissed with a hand wave. It's harder to appreciate at that point. Mm-hmm. As a whole, I do like the episode. It is well done technically and even script, but it is unfortunate that the main theme of the episode was kind of waved away as, oh, it's okay because we have babies now and we love them no matter what. And it's just, especially today, 2022, horrible things are happening politically, and it's just not helping that go down any easier. Mm-hmm. So with great respect, I say it's a great episode, but it is unfortunate that it treats these matters so lightly.
I agree with Mike and Andrew.
Well, there we go.
Sarah Lee had one that was, she said, this one's from Sarah Lee, "Nothing beats the unseen. I wanted to recreate it for my wedding. I once kind of live tweeted it from memory and had a good time with that." Somebody else, Karen, wants to know which take of the dance, because it was them dancing was not in the script initially. That was another David improv. So Jillian was literally taken by surprise by it. And
it does look that way, doesn't it?
It does. But yeah, that's what we got.
I do want to take a moment real quick to let our fans know, anyone listening, BP 9000, as we have come to know him, is taking a step back from the show. We are very supportive of him. He's got some things he's dealing with right now. This is an important episode for him, and we are sorry that he could not be here to kind of help with it, but we wish him the best, and hopefully you will be hearing from him sometime in the future. Thank you for listening to today's episode of This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast. If you liked what you heard, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe, or ratings and reviews on your podcast app of choice. We appreciate all feedback and would love to hear it. Please visit our Facebook page, The Syndicate, This Is Not Happening, and follow us on Twitter at TXF Syndicate, and join in on the discussions and fun. Also check out Magus Media's other podcast, the Chips Groove Podcast, for fun, in-depth reviews of video game soundtracks of all generations. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.